Hi everyone, welcome to our first live stream from Auburn Yoga and Pilates. For those of you who I don't know, I am Jennifer. I am the owner of Auburn Yoga and Pilates. So because of the current conditions with the virus, we decided that we'd like to try to bring you some encouragement to continue your home practice. I know that it isn't quite the same, and I wish that we were all together, but the current conditions, hopefully they will be over soon, and this will just be a distant memory for us. So I'm not sure what platform we'll use moving forward. We may have something more expansive for our members on Zoom. Then it would be nice. We could make it a little more interactive. But for now, I figured I'd go with what was easiest, which is Facebook Live. So we'll do just a very short, gentle yoga class tonight. And if you aren't ready to do it right now, I will post this so that you can do it later on. We're hoping to expand and do classes other than gentle yoga at some point in the future. But gentle yoga is always one of our favorite classes. It's a crowd favorite. So we figured we'd start with that. And I don't know about you, but I definitely feel like I need to breathe. So you want to get started in whatever is a comfortable seated position for you. For me, I tend to like to sit on a folded blanket. If you don't have a lovely yoga blanket like this, any blanket will do, or a big beach towel. You could also sit on a pillow if you need a little bit more height, or if you have some yoga blocks, you could use those. I actually left most of my props at the studio, so they'll have to make an appearance in the next video. But I do have a blanket today, and I did grab, not a yoga belt, but a traditional old belt. So, starting off in that seated position, you want to be in a place where you can relax your knees down toward the floor. You don't want to feel like you're gripping your hip flexors. They tend to be tight enough on their own. And you also want to relax your shoulders down away from your ears. As much as possible, you want to bring yourself into the present moment. Really trying to pay attention to your breath. You want to try to use a deep diaphragmatic breath. So you don't want just your chest to rise and fall. You also want your belly to rise and fall. And try to be extra aware of that in these times. Sometimes we get in the habit of utilizing that shallow chest breath. You want to try to use more of your lung capacity and really feel that entire torso fill with air on your inhale. And then allow the air to slowly go out on the exhale. Now, generally in gentle yoga, we start the class off with a very brief meditation. If you don't have a regular meditation practice, that's okay. It's only 2 minutes. You want to try to focus on something that you'd like to manifest into your day. So maybe it's your favorite cup of hot tea. Maybe it's an opportunity to sit in your favorite chair and read a chapter from your favorite book. Maybe it's a call to a good friend or a family member who you haven't talked to in a long time. But whatever it is, try to paint that picture in your head. Make sure you see yourself in the picture. And then let's add some details. Are there any scents associated? Sounds? Or how do you feel? Remember that they say that the mind doesn't always know what is actually real and what you're really thinking about. So trying to think about what you'd like to manifest as though it was real, increasing the likelihood of it becoming real. And then we just sit in this place for 2 minutes. And then deepening your breath, beginning to bring yourself back into the room and beginning to circle that spine. So we have all these energy centers, all these chakras alongside our spine. You want to try to wake them up, get them moving. And then reverse the direction of your circles. And then holding it in the center and taking your right arm and reaching it up to the ceiling, trying to really lengthen that arm. You may have the tendency to keep it bent. Unless there's a reason not to, try to straighten it and then reach over to the side for a lateral stretch. Trying to keep that torso two-dimensional and finding that place where you can really breathe into that side body. Exhaling that arm down and then inhale, sweep that other arm up, same thing. Reaching through those fingertips like there's something good that you're going to grab hold of. And then coming back to the center and switching the cross of those legs, and then moving from side to side with those lateral stretches. So no specific pace, you want to go with your own breath. Next time, hold that right arm up and gently wrap that hand around your head. Let that elbow drop to the front and then bringing it up to the center. So having a little bit of a lateral stretch, but obviously also getting some rotation in here. So our spine moves in several different ways. We can flex and extend. We can move laterally to the right and to the left. And then we can also rotate to the right and to the left. So trying every day to move your spine in all those different ways. And last one, extend that arm, reach, sweep it over other side, up and over. And again, rotating forward. And last one, reaching that arm and coming down and bringing it into an all fours position. If you have sensitive knees, you can use a blanket to pad your knees, or depending on what surface on you may be comfortable, just kneeling right on that mat. So you want your wrist creases parallel to the short end of the mat, and then you want to allow your pelvis to spill down toward the floor. And then exaggerate, expand that back body, reaching down through those knuckles, through those fingertips. And then moving between a few cat and cows. So again, just moving with your breath. Exaggerating the exhale will really help you to flex that spine. Exaggerating the inhale will probably allow you to feel more length through that front body. And then holding a neutral spine, bringing those big toe mounds together and letting those hips fall back toward those heels. Now, a real common version of child is to take those arms and reach them out. Sometimes that's not comfortable though. Sometimes people prefer bringing their arms by their side or propping up their forehead with their hands. Regardless of what you choose to do with your arms, you want to focus on your hips here. Really allow your hips to be heavy. So much so that you start to feel a little bit of a stretch through that sacral area in your spine. It's that little spot at the base of your spine that tends to be rather cement-like. And then reaching those arms forward, and then inhaling forward into a modified plank pose. Engaging your abdominals, engaging your pelvic floor as you come forward, and then pressing back into child. So inhaling forward into that modified plank, and exhaling back into child's pose. You can decide, do you want to go all the way back into child? Or Do you want to start part way? And we'll try one more. And then we'll hold it in an all-fours position. So from here, you have a couple options. You can simply walk your hands forward for a puppy dog pose, lengthening the spine from hip to wrist. If you'd like something maybe a little stronger, you can curl those toes under, you can lift those knees and hips, and you can press into downward facing dog. Now ideally, you're going to lengthen both the arms and the legs, but that doesn't always happen, and the spine. Prioritize the spine and the arms. If you need to, bend your legs. If you're able to, lengthen those legs. Your head should end up directly between your arms. And then dropping it down. And once again, dropping those hips back into child's pose. And again, you choose the option. What would you like to do with those arms? And then coming back into a very small flow here. So reaching those arms forward now. You can always stop at that modified plank if you feel comfortable. You may feel comfortable dropping those hips toward the floor. If you do, you want to keep your shoulders directly over your wrists. Exhaling, pressing back. And then inhaling, coming forward. So everyone's going to find that place that works for them. As far as how far do you drop those hips? You never want to feel like you're compressing your low spine. If you do, then your hips are dropping too far for you. Thinking about engaging the back, the upper back, ever so slightly as you come forward, helping to pull those shoulders back. Again, making sure that those shoulders end up directly over the wrists. You don't want to end up with them in front of the wrist, and the reason for that is you can probably see if I come forward here, I'm losing that chest opening. You want to try to exaggerate, get that chest opening in. And then next time, holding that all fours position. Once again, choosing either puppy dog or down dog. Your choice. If you choose down dog and you feel relatively comfortable, think about engaging the tops of the thighs. That will help to move those thigh bones back, those femurs. Also move the hips back, which will in turn help to lengthen the arms and the spine. And then dropping it down. So for this one, some people find blocks helpful. If you feel like you're a little congested and it's difficult for you to take that right leg forward, there's just not enough space, blocks will generally help because they bring you to a higher height. So taking that right leg forward here, you want that front knee over that front ankle, and then coming up. Now, everyone will come up into a slightly different place, depending on the flexibility in their hip flexor. So you want to creep forward ever so slightly until you feel like you're getting an opening here through that hip flexor. And then trying to take those shoulders and draw them back toward over the hips, if you can. Inhale, sweeping those arms up, maybe. Inhaling, lengthening through the arms and spine. Exhaling, sinking through those hips. Exhale those hands down to the floor. Now again, if the floor seems rather far away, those blocks will help. And if you don't have yoga blocks at home, you could always use any sort of sturdy box or a bowl or something that's going to just prop you up. Lengthening that front leg, so you may have to scoot that front leg forward. Pull those toes back toward the knee, the front toes. That's important. And then lengthen that spine, fold over that leg. Hopefully feeling an opening now in the back of the leg through that hamstring. Think about taking that front pinky toe and laser beaming it toward your belly button. It'll be tempting to let that front foot kind of go where it wants to go, but try to be conscious of keeping it flexed if you can. And then coming back into that knee down lunge, sliding that front leg back and stepping that opposite leg forward. So same thing as the other side, taking those hands up the leg and letting those hips drop forward. And sometimes you have to accommodate with the front leg. Sometimes you end up with a position here and you want to try not to put excess weight onto that knee. You want to try to keep that ankle under the knee for stability. It's the safest place for the knee. So find that hip flexor stretch. In this hip flexor stretch, you're trying to be heavy through your sitting bones, and you're trying to keep that sacrum fairly vertical. And again, if you feel comfortable reaching those arms up, maybe your gaze is up. Maybe that makes you feel a little tipsy. If it does, adjust your gaze back to the front. Exhale, sweep those arms down and lengthening that front leg, pulling those toes back toward the knee, lengthening that spine, folding over that leg. So if you're feeling tight, you want to put your hands on something. If you're feeling rather flexible today, you can start walking those hands forward. So there's a place for everybody, finding that place that works for you. Remembering to laser beam that pinky toe towards your belly button. And then coming back into that knee down lunge, sliding that front leg back, coming forward, and then slowly dropping all the way down to the floor. And you can stack those arms and rest your forehead on those arms in a crocodile. You want your thigh bones parallel to each other, And then you want to, with as much energy as you can, lift that right leg up, engage that hamstring and inner thigh, push back through that big toe mound on the right leg. Imagining that you temporarily can't bend at your knee. And then dropping that leg down. Try the same thing on the other side. So your glute can be engaged, but you don't want it to grip. You want the majority of the work here to come from that hamstring, that inner thigh. And dropping that leg down. Now taking those arms down by your side. Now some people will fully extend the arms, and some people will bend their elbows and tent their fingers. It's really up to you. Engage through your upper back and pull the heads of the shoulders back away from the floor. Keeping the thigh bones parallel to each other, lift your sternum. Coming up into some form of a baby cobra. Now you don't want to depend on your arms. And exhale, dropping that down, letting your head rest to one side. And then trying the same thing one more time. So engaging that back body. Lifting your sternum, and maybe it's a little, maybe it's a lot. And exhale, dropping it down to the other side. Now try to put those two movements together. So, thighs are parallel, arms are by your side, coming into some form of Shalabhasana or locust. If you'd like, you can make it a little more challenging by lifting those arms up, reaching those fingers back toward those feet. Exhale, dropping it down. Now on this next one, you can do the very same thing, or you can bring your inner thighs and your big toe mounds together. That's going to make it a little more challenging. So you choose whether you keep the thighs parallel or you bring those inner thighs together. It'll be a little bit more work for the back, so sometimes it's too much work. And your arms can be resting on the floor, or you can press them by your side. So we did a little stretch through the front body. We did those hip flexor stretches, those little cat-cow poses, and dropping it down. A little lengthening through the back body with the hamstring stretch, a little strengthening through the back body with this cobra. And of course we did cobras to open the front body too, a little earlier. And then taking those hands by your side ribs, lifting up, coming back to rest in child's pose. Then coming up into a seated position. So again, you may find it helpful to sit on a folded blanket. So finding those sits bones, lengthening those legs. Sometimes when people get into this position, you sort of want to look like an L. You want to make a pretty perpendicular angle at your hip. Sometimes people end up like this, like that, like this. If that's the case, see if elevating your hips will help at all. Now, this one here, Dandasana, ideally, textbook, you're going to spin your inner thighs to the floor. You're going to bring your big toe mounds together and flex your feet. And you're going to do it without your feet folding in like a book. I struggle with that. My feet do fold in a little bit like a book. As much as you can, try to bring your pinky toes back. And then coming forward. Now this is where, if your feet are feeling really far away, some sort of yoga strap or belt, if you don't have one handy, can really be useful to you. Some people may find it comfortable just to simply grab hold of their feet. As you're here, inhale, lengthen your spine. Exhale, go into that fold. And then coming up into a seated position, bringing the bottom of your feet together and coming into a butterfly stretch. So there's a few variations of butterfly. Sometimes you'll try to bring your heels closer to your hips. Sometimes you'll try to bring your heels further from your hips. Just for today, find whatever feels like it's going to be the most beneficial for you. So on butterfly, you may feel a stretch in your outer hip and thigh. You may feel a stretch in your inner thigh. You may feel a stretch in your back body, back of your torso, that is. And coming up, lengthening those legs, pulling those toes back and folding forward. Pulling those toes back toward the knees. Trying to go a little more deeply than last time. Inhaling, lengthening that spine. Exhaling into the fold. And then slowly coming up and coming out of that. And then coming into a supine position. So we've been going for a little over half an hour. So obviously this is going to be shorter than one of the traditional classes. But remember, it is the first Facebook Live one. So we'll see how it goes. One thing that I've realized is to adjust the camera further away so that I could do the standing series too. But there's always next time. So you want those feet flat to your mat and you want to feel grounded. Especially these days, it's very important to feel grounded. And although it may sound silly to say that, there is something significant about literally allowing your body to fall into your mat, allowing gravity to take over, feeling that connection between your back body and the floor, and the bottom of your feet in the floor. And then taking that right leg, crossing it over your left. Lifting your hips and swinging your hips just slightly to the right. You want to align your spine so that it's parallel to the long end of your mat. Your arms go out to the side. They can go into goalposts or they can go directly out to the side. You want to allow the legs to drop to the left, but your gaze to look to the right. How far left you drop those legs is up to you. You can try playing with things like, how far apart are your knees? How close to your torso are your legs? That's going to change the way the twist feels. So play with that until you find a beneficial one. And then bringing those legs back up to center, bringing those hips back to center, uncrossing those legs and crossing the other way. Lift those hips, shift those hips over to the left, allow the legs to drop to the right, and bring those arms into goalposts or directly out to the side. If you can, look to the left. Paying attention to your breath here. Can you use your breath to help you go just a little bit more deeply into the stretch? Maybe relaxing a little bit on the exhale. Sometimes we just tend to tense. We don't know what to expect, so we tighten up. And then bringing those legs back to the center, bringing those hips back to the center. Uncrossing those legs and bringing yourself into a place for final relaxation. If you have a tight back, you may want to roll a blanket or put a pillow under your knees. Your arms come by your side. And you really do want to try to allow yourself to ground into your mat. Exhaling, allowing yourself to sink deeper and deeper. Relaxing your legs, releasing your hips, relaxing your abdomen, your chest, your back, your arms all the way down to your fingers. Relax your jaw. Relax the area around your eyes. Try to smooth the creases in your forehead. And then when you're ready, deepening your breath. Once again, bending your legs, planting your feet. and then rolling onto one side and eventually coming up into a seated position. So the other thing that I do not have with me is all of my positive affirmation card decks. If you usually take class with me, you're very familiar with them. I will have to make sure that I bring them with me so that I have some here to share with you. But definitely sending you positive wishes, positive thoughts. May the light within me salute the light within you. Namaste, take care, and we'll see you again soon.